Okay, so this is our pre-AP Chapter 3 test review. Make sure, guys, please make sure that you're going through this with me and that you're writing everything down if you don't already have it. If you did the problem wrong, you need to redo the problem the correct way. Only writing the answers down does not help you at all. Okay, you need to know how you got that answer. So it's very important that you write the process down, what we're doing, as well as the answer. Okay, so number 1, change 21 over 4 into a mixed number. Okay, well remember, to change an improper fraction into a mixed number, this line needs to divide. So we're going to top in, bottom out. 4 goes into 21 5 times. Minus 20 is 1. So I've got my whole number, my numerator, my denominator. 5 with a remainder of 1 over 4. Okay, we can check this going back using our mama method. 4 times 5 is 20. 20 plus 1 is 21 over 4. That's what I originally had, so I did it right. Okay, so number 2. Change 6 4/5 into an improper fraction. Okay, so I want to go from this back to here. So how do I do that? I'm mama, okay, or Texas. I'm going to come over here and do it. 6 4/5. You multiply and then add. So 5 times 6 is 30, and 30 plus 4 is 34 over 5. You keep the original denominator. Okay? Number 3, what is the least common denominator of 3/8 and 5/6? Well, in order to figure this out, we need to come over here and list all the factors of 6 and all the factors of 8. Just simply multiplying these two together won't always get you the least common denominator. So I've got 6, then 12, 18, 24, 30. I'm going to stop there. Start with my 8. So I've got 8, 16, then 24. Oh, there's my first number I have in common. So my least common denominator is 24. Number 4, evaluate. Remember, evaluate means to just solve. Okay? Evaluate means to solve. All right, so 1/4 plus negative 2/7. All right, 1/4 plus negative 2/7. Please don't forget about this negative. First off, I can't do anything right now because I don't have a common denominator. So I'm going to come over here, 1/4 and 2/7. What's my least common denominator between these two? Well, let's see, 7 times 2 is 14. 4 doesn't go into 14. Then there's 21. 4 doesn't go into 21. So 28 is going to be our least common denominator. 28. All right. I'm going to try and, well, sorry, I was going to try and raise that up some so it quits trying to autofocus. Let me see if I can get that. We'll see if that helps at all. No, it's not, but that's okay. Okay, so 7 times 4 is 28, so 2 times 4 is 8. 4 times 7 is 28, so 1 times 7 is 7. Now I have my new equivalent fractions that I'm going to rewrite. 7 over 28 plus, remember our second fraction was negative 8 over 28. Now I need to go back to my integer rules and think, okay, when my signs are different, that's a positive and that's a negative, and I have an addition problem, I'm going to take the difference. So what's the difference between 8 and 7? Well, that would be 1. And I have more negatives than I do positives. I have negative 8 and positive 7. So this is negative 1 over 28. Okay, number 5. 3 1/10 plus 2 3/4. Well, my first step here, I can't do anything with mixed numbers. I need to change them to improper fractions. So 10 times 3 is 30, and 30 plus 1 is 31 over 10. And then 4 times 2 is 8, and 8 plus 3 is 11. So 11 over 4. My least common denominator between 4 and 10 will be 20. 4 times 5 is 20, so that means 11 times 5 will be 55. 10 times 2 is 20, so that means 31 times 2 will be 62. So I've got 62 over 20 plus 55 over 20. Now that I have common denominators, I can add my numerators. 62 plus 55 is 117 over 20. And I want to change that back into a mixed number, so let's divide. 117 divided by 20. 20 goes into 117 5 times. Minus 100 leaves me with 17. So 5 and 17 20ths. I cannot simplify this portion of the fraction anymore. 17 over 20 is already simplified, so that is my final answer. Let's go over to number 6. 5 and 1/8 minus 1 and 2/3. Again, I have two mixed numbers, so I need to change them to improper fractions. 8 times 5 is 40, plus 1 is 41 over 8. 3 times 1 is 3, plus 2 is 5, so 5 over 3. Okay, now I need to find a common denominator between these two. Let's see, 8 times 2 is 16, 3 won't go into 16. 8 times 3 is 24, okay, so 24. So I know 3 times 8 is 24, so that means 5 times 8 is 40. I know 8 times 3 is 24, so 41 times 3, come over here and do that math, is 123. So I have 123 over 24 minus 40 over 24. Now that I have a common denominator, I can just subtract my numerators. 123 minus 40 leaves me with 83, so I've got 83 over 24. I want to change this improper fraction back into a mixed number, so I'm going to top in, bottom out. I know 24 will go into 83, I think 3 times, but I'm going to come over here and check. 24 times 3, that's 72. So yes, I can't add another 24 in there. So 3 minus 72 is 11. So I've got 3 and 11 24ths. 11 over 24 cannot be simplified anymore. So that's my final answer. Number 7. Remember, parentheses next to each other mean to multiply. So this is 31.2 times 0.6. This has 3 digits and that only has 2, so I'm going to put my 3-digit number on top. My 2-digit number I'm going to push as far right as possible, so 0.6. Remember, when you're multiplying, you do not have to line up the decimals. In this case, these decimals do line up, but that's just because of how many numbers are behind a decimal point. So now I'm going to multiply like normal. 6 times 2 is 12. 6 times 1 plus 1 is 7. 6 times 3 is 18. Next row. 0, 0, 0. When I add it all up, I get 2, 7, 8, 1. I'm going to rewrite that over here. Okay, and now in order to figure out where my decimal point's going to go, I need to look at how many numbers are behind a decimal point in my factors. So if I look here, I've got 1, 2 numbers behind a decimal point, so I'm going to move it 1, 2 times to the left. So 18.72 is my final answer. Okay, number 8, name at least 3 decimal expressions that have a product means to multiply, of 0.36. Well, I know here that I have 2 numbers behind a decimal point, so that means in my factors, the numbers I multiply together, I need 2 numbers behind a decimal point. So I'm just going to pick 2 numbers that I know multiply together to get 36, like 36 times 1. Okay, and where would I need to put a decimal point? Well, I could put one, let's see, 3.6 times 0.1. Okay, there's an option. I know that 9 times 4 is 36. I could do 0.9 times 0.4. I know that 12 times 3 is 36. So I could do 0.12 times 3, or you could do 1.2 times 0.3. You have a lot of different options here. Okay, so there's 3 examples. Number 9. Multiply, write in simplest form. Does the first factor increase or decrease? Explain. So the first factor is the first number, okay? Just keep that in mind. So let's multiply like normal here, okay? I've got a positive 4/5 times a negative 2/3. Well, I know a positive times a negative is going to equal a negative, so I'm going to go ahead and write that there so I don't forget about it. Now to multiply fractions, it's simply top times top. So 4 times 2 is 8. And bottom times bottom, 5 times 3 is 15. Okay. I cannot simplify this fraction anymore, so that's my final answer. All right. So now what I want to do is I want to see, well, did my first factor get bigger or smaller? Did it increase or decrease? Well, I went from a positive 4/5 to a negative 8/15. We all know negatives are smaller than positives, so it decreased. Okay. Number 10. Negative 5/7 times negative 2/5. Well, I know a negative times a negative is a positive, so I'm going to go ahead and write that out there so I don't forget. Now I'm just going to multiply my fractions like normal. 5 times 2, top times top. 5 times 2 is 10. And bottom times bottom, 7 times 5 is 35. And I can simplify this fraction. I can divide them both by 5. 10 divided by 5 is 2, and 35 divided by 5 is 7. I cannot simplify this fraction anymore. So that's my final answer. Now let's go back and figure out, did my first factor, negative 5/7, increase or decrease? Well, I went from a negative to a positive. Okay, positives are always bigger than negatives, so it increased. All right, let's look at number 11. 4 times 2.5. Well, in order to do this problem, we have 2 things we need to do. We need to change this to a fraction and this mixed number to an improper fraction. So what do we need to put underneath a whole number to make it a fraction? A 1, good. 4/1 times, and now I need to change this mixed number into an improper fraction, so mama, multiply, add. 2 times 2 is 4. 4 plus 1 is 5, so times 5/2. This is a positive times a positive, so my answer is going to be positive. All right, top times top. 4 times 5 is 10, and bottom times bottom. 1 times 2 is, 4 times 5 is 20. And 1 times 2 is 2. Then 20 divided by 2 is 10. Okay, so let's look at our first factor, 4. My final answer, 10. Did my first factor increase or decrease? Well, 4 went up to 10, so it increased. All right, that's your first page. Let's look at your second page. All right, number 12 on the back. Divide, write in simplest form if necessary. So we're going to divide. Remember dividing fractions? We have that song, dividing fractions, ain't no lie. Just flip the second one and multiply. Okay, so first things first, I have a whole number here. I need to make it a fraction. So I'm going to put a 1 under it. I'm going to rewrite this. Negative 4/1 divided by 2/5. Okay? Negative divided by a positive. Negative 4 divided by a positive 2/5. I know my answer is going to be negative. So I'm going to put that up there so I don't forget about it. Now, dividing fractions ain't no lie. Just flip the second one and multiply. So, I'm going to flip the second one. 2/5 becomes 5/2, and I'm going to multiply. 4 times 5 is 20, and 1 times 2 is 2. Okay, we just did this one. 20 divided by 2 is 10, so I've got -10. Okay, number 13. If I look at number 13, 3 1/3 divided by 1 7/8. Well, first things first, a positive divided by positive is a positive, so that's not going to change. But in order to divide these, I need to change these mixed numbers into improper fractions. So we're going to mama. 3 times 3 is 9, and 9 plus 1 is 10. So I have 10 over 3 divided by 8 times 1 is 8, and 8 plus 7 is 15. Okay, dividing fractions ain't no lie. Just flip the second one and multiply. So I'm going to flip the second one, and I'm going to multiply. Okay, top times top. 10 times 8 is 80. 3 times 5 is 15. I'm sorry. 3 times 15 is 45. Now I have an improper fraction, so let's change it to a mixed number. Top in, bottom out. 45 goes into 80 one time. Minus 45. Borrow from my 8. 10 minus 5 is 5, and 7 minus 4 is 3. So I have 1 and 35/45. Now, is this fraction in simplest form? No, it is not. I can divide them both by 5. Okay, so I'm just going to bring my whole number over. 35 divided by 5 is 7. 45 divided by 5 is 9. So 1 7/9 is my final answer. Okay, number 14, 51.62 divided by 2.9. Remember FISO? First in, second out. My first number goes inside my house. My second number goes outside. I cannot have a decimal point outside my house, so I'm going to move it as far to the right as possible to make this a whole number. So I'm going to move it one time outside, and what I do outside, I must also do inside. After I move it once, I'm going to take it straight up so I don't forget about it. Now, we can do our division. 29 goes into 5. No. 29 will go into 51 one time. Minus 29. Borrow from my 5. 11 minus 9 is 2, and 4 minus 2 is 2. Bring down my 6. Now I got to figure out 29 will go into 226 how many times without going over? Well, off the top of my head, I have no clue. So I'm going to come over here and I'm just going to pick a number to multiply it by. So let's say 8. 8 times 9 is 72. 8 times 2 is 16, plus 7 is 23. That's too big. 232 is over 226, so that won't work. Let's try 29 times 7. 7 times 9 is 63. 7 times 2 is 14, plus 6 is 20. Oh, that'll work. So 7 minus 203. 6 minus 3 is 3. 2 minus 0 is 2, and that's 0. Okay, so 23, bring down my 2. 29 goes into 232 8 times, so minus 232 is 0. Okay, so my final answer is 17.8. And that's a positive divided by a positive, so my answer is positive. Okay, now let's go into our word problems. Number 15. Nails cost 13 cents per pound. Okay, so I'm going to circle. Nails cost 13 cents per pound. And screws cost 21 cents per pound. So I'm going to box those so I can keep them separate. Nails are circled, screws are boxed. Okay, Michelle bought 1.5 pounds of nails. So 1.5 pounds of nails. And 3.4 pounds of screws. How much did she pay for the nails and screws? Okay, so I got to figure out how much did the nails cost, how much did the screws cost, and then I need to figure out how much it cost all together. Okay, all together. So, in order to figure out how much the nails cost, if it's 13 cents for 1 pound, and she bought 1.5 pounds, I'm going to multiply. So, 1.5 times 0.13. 3 times 5 is 15. 3 times 1 plus 1 is 4. 1 times 5 is 5, and 1 times 1 is 1. Add down. I get 195, and I have 1, 2, 3 numbers behind a decimal, so 1, 2, 3. So I get 0.195. So that's how much my nails cost, 0.195. Now let's figure out screws. Screws are 0.21 cents per pound, and she bought 3.4 pounds, so times 3.4. 4 times 1 is 4. 4 times 2 is 8. 3 times 1 is 3, and 3 times 2 is 6. So I've got 4. 3 plus 8 is 11, and 7. And I've got 1, 2, 3 numbers behind a decimal, so move 3 times to the left. That's 0.714. Now, if that's how much the nails cost, and that's how much the screws cost, and I want to know how much she paid for both of those, I need to add them together. So remember, when you're adding decimals, you have to line them up. Okay, 4 plus 5 is 9, 1 plus 9 is 10, and 1 plus 7 plus 1 is 9. Bring my decimal point straight down. 0.909. It says that I need to round to the nearest cent. Okay, so the hundredths place is your cent value. So I need to round this number. So I'm going to look at the number behind it. This 9, because it's greater than 5, tells me that I need to round this number up. So 0.909, that 9 tells me I need to round the 0 up to a 1. So 0.91. 91 cents. That's how much she paid in all. All right. Okay, next one. Number 16. On Monday, the high temperature in the high temperature in Austin was 57.2 degrees Fahrenheit, and the high temperature in Chicago was 26 degrees Fahrenheit. How many times greater was the high temperature in Austin than the high temperature in Chicago on Monday? So here's a hint. 26 times some number is going to equal 57.2. Well, in order for us to figure out this number, we need to work backwards. So it's 57.2 divided by 26. So 57.2 divided by 26. Remember FISO, first in, second out. Okay, my number outside my house is already a whole number, so I don't need to move any decimals, so I'm going to take this straight up. 26 will go into 57 2 times. 26 times 2 is 52. 57 minus 52 is 5. Bring down my 2. 26 goes into 52 2 times. Okay, so how many times greater? 2.2. 2.2 times greater. All right. Number 17. A mother tiger is 11 times longer than a tiger cub. So here's our mama. She's this long, okay? She's 11 times longer than her baby cub. So here's her baby cub. Okay. How long is the mother tiger if the tiger cub is 1.28 feet long? So I know the cub is 1.28 feet long. And I know mama is 11 times larger than the cub. So 11 times 1.28. That has 3 digits. That has 2. So we're going to put our 3-digit number on top. 8, 2, 1. 8, 2, 1. Add down. 8 plus 0 is 8. 2 plus 8 is 10. 2 plus 1 plus 1 is 4, and 1 plus 0 is 1. I'm going to rewrite that over here so it's a little easier to see. How many numbers do I have behind a decimal point? 1, 2. So I'm going to move it 2 times to the right. 14.08 feet long. Okay, so that's how long the mama tiger is. Number 18. Mrs. Farrar is building a rectangular patio that is 7 2/5 feet long and 9 2/7 feet wide. What is the area of her patio? Okay, so remember the area of a rectangle. We figure that out by doing length times width. And I know it's 7 2/5 feet long and 9 2/7 feet wide. So I'm going to do length times width. So 7 2/5 times 9 2/7. We know we can't multiply mixed numbers. We need to change them to improper fractions first. So mama, 5 times 7 is 35, plus 2 is 37 over 5, times 7 times 9 is 63, plus 2 is 65 over 7. It's going to be some big numbers. Top times top, 37 times 65. I'm going to do that over here. 5 times 7 is 35. 5 times 3 is 15. Plus 3 is 18. 6 times 7 is 42. 6 times 3 is 18. Plus 4 is 22. Add down. So I've got 2,405. And then bottom times bottom, 5 times 7 is 35. Now I've got this big old improper fraction that I need to change back to a mixed number. So, top in, bottom out. Let's divide. 2,405 divided by 35. Well, 35 won't go into 2. It won't go into 24. But it will go into 240. I just have to figure out how many times without going over. So, let's just pick a number to multiply 35 by. Let's try 6. 6 times 5 is 30. 6 times 3 is 18. Plus 3 is 21. Ooh, 210. That's pretty close. Let's see if we can go one more without going over. 35 times 7. 7 times 5 is 35. 7 times 3 is 21. Plus 3 is 24. Oh, we went over. 245 is bigger than 240. So 6 it is. So minus 210 leaves me with 30. Bring down my 5. Okay, 35 goes into 305. Well, I got to figure out how many times without going over. So let's just pick something else. 35 times 8. Let's try that. We've done 6 and 7. Let's do 8. 8 times 5 is 40. 8 times 3 is 24. Plus 4 is 280. Well, let's see if we can go one more time. 35 times 9. 9 times 5 is 45. 9 times 3 is 27. Plus 4 is 31. 315 is too big, so 8 it is. Minus 280 is 25. So I've used all my numbers under my house. So whole number, numerator, denominator. 68 and 25/35. Now is this fraction simplified? No. I can divide each by 5. So I'm going to bring my whole number over again. 25 divided by 5 is 5, and 35 divided by 5 is 7. So 68 and 5/7 feet squared. Feet squared, because it's area. Alright, number 18 is done. Let's move over here to number 19. Thanks for sticking with me, guys. We're almost there. We've got about 8 more. Okay, find the area of the rectangle. Hint, use area equals length times width. So length times width. So I'm going to do 9.7 times 4.2. 2 times 7 is 14. 2 times 9 is 18, plus 1 is 19. 4 times 7 is 28. 4 times 9 is 36, plus 2 is 38. 4 plus 0 is 4, 9 plus 8 is 17, 8 plus 1 is 10, 3 plus 1 is 4. Now, how many numbers do you have behind a decimal? 1, 2. So we go 1, 2. So 40.74 feet squared is the area. Okay, number 20. Franklin read 5/7 of the pages in his 147-page book. I hope you remember me talking about in class that of means to multiply. That's a key word there for us. Okay, he read 5/7 of the pages in his 147-page book. How many pages has he read? And then how many pages does he have left to read? So he's read 5/7. That means that he has 2/7 left to read. All right. So let's first figure out how many pages has he read. He's read this, 5/7. And we said of means to multiply. So I'm going to do 5/7 times 147. Well, I need to write that as a fraction. 147 because it's a 147-page book. So top times top, bottom times bottom. 147 times 5 is 735. 7 times 1 is 7. Okay? Now, improper fraction, that does not tell me how many pages he has read. So let's change this. Okay, so 735 divided by 7